this is not a part of any project or planning. Last month, we heard that Dan was going to be in the area, and we want to take advantage of Dan being here because he's well known for his walkability audit. So we want to make sure that he at least get one walkability audit in Arcata. So that's what we are doing. You will see a map that shows the area that we'll be walking. The focus areas are 11th Street and K Street. So we'll be walking from this way on K, walk along the K, then go 11th, then come back, and then we'll meet at the playhouse. Hopefully that'll be open at that time, and we'll have a debrief on that. After that, we'll disperse. Dan's going to go to McKinleyville, do the same thing. Tomorrow he's going to be in Eureka. But on Monday evening, he will be doing a presentation based on this walkability audit, and he will have a more debrief on Monday evening meeting in Eureka. So please come to that meeting on Monday evening. So with that, Dan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is a marvelous turnout. I'm very impressed. And this is actually my first significant walk audit since the pandemic started. Things kind of slowed down. And I used to do about 2 a day for the last 25 years. So this is a double treat for me. And Arcata is one of my very favorite towns. Out of all the towns I've ever been to, I think it led over 3 different walk audits here in town over the years. And so I'm really pleased that we're going to talk about such important topics. We have too many people to have each of you introduce yourselves, but if we have the time at the end, we'd like to do what we call a talk story, where we gain your insights and so on. Walking audits began in earnest about 40 years ago at the start of my career, when I found a group of engineers that had designed an intersection. When I asked them how it works for pedestrians, they said, we didn't design it for pedestrians, which was clear from their design. I said, okay, we're now going to go out and take a walk. They walked around the intersection, and I said, now you know how to design. And truly, it was, I'm told, the start of walking audits in our country. That was back when I worked in the Florida DOT. What I like to get out of a walking audit is to gain a sense of the corridor that we're walking or the neighborhood we're walking from you, but I will share with you the things that I'm impressed with and the things I never want to see again. Yesterday we were doing a walking audit in Willits, and I had never seen horse droppings in the middle of an ADA ramp. So we'll see what really impresses all of us. But I, just on a short bike ride early this morning, I'm very impressed with some of the progress you guys have been making. I mean, it's very noteworthy. And so with that, who knows our route better than I do?
Let's walk this way.
So to me, walking audits aren't about a distance covered or anything like that. It's how many talking places we can come up with. And I will share that this caught my eye because of the benches. The older people get, the more they would respect the fact that they don't have to walk 2 miles to find a place to sit, right? I was in Madison, Wisconsin, one of the most walkable communities in America, and my wife and I were walking along. We did about a 2-mile walk, always looking for a place we might be able to sit. And we never found a single place to sit. So I'm very pleased, and you've got a variety of very natural places to sit. So kudos and compliments on that.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Brian and Lisa.
Oh, where's Brian and Lisa?
They own the Creamery building.
Oh, they do?
But you'll find a dearth of benches in other parts of town.
Okay. Well, anyway, these are things that are very noteworthy. What I like to say a walking audit is about is looking through a different lens than we use every day, so that we begin to see the things that we're really proud of in our community the things that we just know we can do better, right? And again, based on people and place, not speed or anything we've been overdoing for the car for so long. So again, we're going to look specifically at how we can make it better for people. Okay? Okay, we'll keep going. I want to make sure Josh gets well introduced from Civic Well. He's my partner for this 4-day stint. Josh and I have been working together over 20 years. Yeah. And he gets to live in California. I don't, but I don't live too far away. I live up in Port Townsend, Washington. And I think I was sharing with someone earlier, after working, I think, 3,200 communities in America so far, I wanted to leave a state that wasn't walkable, Florida, and moved to a nice little town of 10,000, Port Townsend, Washington. So we love the fruits of all the work that people did to make Port Townsend a great place. But I wanted to first stop and talk about this intersection. You've done some remarkably great things with your crossings of the trail. I've been up and down it, so I have a pretty good feel for that. You've got a really good international symbol pointing out this is where you yield. It's important that the streets not have too high of a speed. Motors will not yield at 30 miles an hour. Some will yield at 25. Almost all will yield at 20. So when we approach a crossing with the design of the street, our goal is to try to get the speeds down to about 20. There are a lot of towns throughout Europe for sure, but now in Canada where they just say 20 is plenty. And for them it's 30 kilometers per hour, but all of human behavior changes when you get down to 20. And I don't think any town center should be more than 20, ever. It's like it shouldn't be, right? And some towns are now saying yes, and that applies to every neighborhood street. So, yeah, we have a need to move regional traffic, but in our town, Port Townsend, we only have one street that's posted at 30. Now, we don't post them for 20 in many places, but people kind of know that you don't want to go more than 20 miles an hour on the local street. So that should be the goal.
And you know in Arcata it's generally 25.
Yes, and that's true throughout the whole country right now, but we can change that.
But California now allows cities to bring that down to 20.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Although
Yeah.
Arcata hasn't taken them up on it yet.
At any rate, all of your crossings that I've been through are very well marked, the high quality international markings, and looks like they're holding up pretty well. Totally flat, so that you got a wide entry and a wide exit. Truly some very remarkable things I'm observing today. Yeah. Okay, we go this way. This is a marvelous turnout. So, a couple of questions. What are the big issues here? And yes, would you be the spokesperson?
One of the issues I cross this exact intersection is that the people coming north a lot of times will stop. I've been in the middle of the crosswalk and have people going south go within a foot or two from me and not even stop. They don't see me, or they don't understand they're supposed to stop when I'm in there. I think they just don't see me. They see that stoplight down there and they're trying to get down there as fast as possible. But 3 times I've been in the middle of that crosswalk and had people, in fact, there was 3 people with me one time. We were trying to, that person stopped, we got in the middle, and that other person went right across.
Okay. So, again, the speeds are probably higher that motorists don't honor the person trying to cross. But there are so many good quality treatments we've proven and reproven over and over. And I noticed this area is part of the parking, and it shouldn't be. Where does the parking, and the parking ends. We really should have a curb extension.
Is that like a bump out, Dan?
Also called a bump up.
Out or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
And let's
All right.
build
So
one.
the
Let's build one. I'm just going to assign everyone to stand and move out from. Come on, everybody. Okay, and follow me. Keep following in.
Curb ramp. Extension.
Keep following in. Keep following in.
There are you going, Dan?
Follow me. Yep. And I'm going to narrow it down on this side too. Come on, we need you.
Like a conga line. You gotta get on the conga line.
You're the bump out. Yep. Come in. And then, you guys already have it figured out. Okay, right in here. So, yes, please. Okay. This is all it is. Let's move in just a tad. Just a tad, though. So you're all part of a curb extension or a bump out, a couple other terms, and so on. The point is they're very inexpensive to build if we don't interrupt the drainage. And there are so many ways to do that. We do it on both sides of the street. It opens up the sight lines for the motorist. It slows motorists down where we want them slowed down. You can do it on all four corners. And you can then decide whether or not you want a center median island, which you've been building very well in a number of places. And so you adjust the geometrics to make sure you keep a 10 or 11 foot wide lane on each side. And now motors will yield much better. I won't say every one, but
Does that push the bikes out further into the traffic? Does that push the bikes out further into the traffic when you have an extension?
it does. Well, no, because they are already being pushed out by the parked cars.
Out to this stripe.
But how about
Yeah.
just not allowing parking? It's really awful when you come from one of the streets that's entered here to see cars coming and they're coming
Right.
fast.
Right. And again, parking is a crazy topic in America, right? I would say if you don't need the parking on this street, you could assign it to a side street. Josh, could you measure how wide that street is? If the street is the width I think it is, you could do diagonal parking on the side that doesn't have the driveways. And if you have the option, again, we'd have to study it and figure it out. You could switch the diagonal from one side over to the other at the mid-block. And that creates a nice quality chicane so that the motor speeds are low. You're handling the parking in a place where it probably makes more sense. Then you can do all kinds of things on the street. You could have buffered bike lanes along with the curb extensions. So we could sketch out what that would look like. But today, that's a very successful, well-proven set of tools.
Well, what do you think? They want to make this a one-way street.
Okay, let's talk about one-ways. But first,
The current plan is to make K Street one way and have really nice bike facilities on it. Build L Street out. I don't know if you've noticed, it's currently intermittent and they want to make it one way that way.
With trucks on it. The trucks.
What trucks on it? Well, I mean, everything on it.
okay, can everybody hear? I give you all permission to use your outdoor voice. This is a good-sized crowd. So, a number of things about one-ways. I have, and I'll make sure I include this in my closing presentation Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday.
That one-ways generally were overbuilt in America. And they were built for a reason. They were actually funded by federal dollars so that we could flush traffic out of downtown in a heartbeat. And that was when we were trying to way over support speedy cars, right? And it worked. Downtowns died. And so now that we realize downtowns are the lifeblood of a community, we're converting a lot of one-way streets back to two-way, getting the speeds lower and so on. But I'd have to know a lot more information about what the overall plans are in order to comment on that, and I'm sure I'll be well filled in on that. But what I will say is whatever you do, you want low speeds. And then pay attention to the circulation, what makes the most sense. But I need a lot more information to, voice an idea on that. I just want to say we've overdone one-way streets in our country, and now we're trying to get back from that. And yes.
Well, I think they've noticed that in Europe, in England, that I know about, from stopping the one-way streets, it's slowing the traffic, and the road deaths have gone down. That's notable. Whereas in America, the road deaths keep on going up.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I just want to mention, you said the bulb out would help slow traffic, but as I mentioned, I was in the street, so I was even beyond the bulb out, and I was almost still getting hit. It seems like we need something a little bit more, something like flashing lights or something.
Well, you certainly could do a rectangular rapid flash beacon. You've got them already. But if you pull back the parking, you can do a mix. You can have the curb extensions on both sides out so far, and then you still have space left over for a median island. And that way you really start to communicate to the motors.
Keep on walking so we can go to 11th Street as well.
Let's do it.
Quick question, last question. What is the recommended width for single lane? What is the best width?
My recommendation is you set your default citywide, yes, for the lane width for the car.
Single lane width,
My preference is you start with a default assigned width of 10 feet. Then when you have a unique condition, curves, heavy truck traffic, whatever, you now have permission to go up, but have a reason to go up from a good default. So 10 feet, and right?
We use 10, yes.
Yeah, could I ask you just one last question? Through the city now, there tends to be more of a feeling, I think, from the engineering department that stop signs are not preferable. And I'm just wondering, in our particular situation with our street, I feel like it's going to go through some evolution. If it's possible that stop signs could be intermediate steps to possibly keep the traffic slowing down.
Generally, we don't use stop signs for traffic speed control.
Okay.
We end up with too many other problems, people spiking their speed between stop signs and so on.
Okay.
So the whole science of traffic calming, designing the street for the speed we want people to go.
Okay.
And I'll definitely build that into my presentation.
Yeah.
But we have way overbuilt four-way stops in this country.
Okay.
Way overbuilt them. And California is probably the worst. Thank you.
Okay, keep on walking.
You are now in the upper 1 percentile in America for attendance at a walking audit. That's pretty good. And on a Saturday morning to boot, right? So at any rate, what are the issues at this corner? It's a two-way stop, and it's also a trail crossing, right? With your bicycle boulevard?
Bicycle Boulevard, yeah.
Okay, so this becomes a really important discussion point. Anytime you do a bicycle boulevard, the concept is that you make it a throughway for people walking and bicycling, but you don't encourage high volumes of motorists, nor their speed. So there needs to be a place where the motorists are diverted from using it as a through street. So, and again, I'd have to know a lot more about how it's working to give you any further advice on it, but that's the principle behind a bicycle boulevard.
Repeat the principle, because I think, thinking about, since I live here, where we've placed bicycle boulevards, we place them in really high traffic areas. And I think the idea of that is to give bicyclists access to
Right.
amenities, right? So you're saying that if you want to make a bicycle boulevard, which is also ergo pedestrian friendly, you want to make sure that that is not exactly the main thoroughfare for automotive.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And Palo Alto was probably the first in the country to do bicycle boulevards, and they've taken off pretty well in a number of communities. But this, in my definition, it's missing some key components. So we can look at that and see what recommendations. But let's just say you're finding a number of motorists are using it as their throughway, and if that's the case, then a street like this diverts them back into a different street. So that it lightens the volume tremendously and the potential for speed. But you make it a throughway for bicycles and pedestrians, so whatever treatment you put in diverts the motorists, but the pedestrians and bicycles go straight through. That's the intent.
But the bicycle way is along the greenway there, isn't it? I mean, that is, that's
Boulevard is on J Street. This is a boulevard too.
Yeah, this is the bike boulevard, yeah.
Yeah,
I actually don't know where they all are.
yeah.
This is boulevard.
Yeah. 10th Street and I Street are bicycle boulevard. And it jogs on J Street at downtown.
It says bicycle boulevard. It's obvious.
Yeah.
it says Terrell.
Yeah, this is Cheryl. It's not a bicycle boulevard.
Terrell means all people can't bike there.
But it says boulevard right there now.
Then we're talking about
This is,
That direction.
yeah, 10.
It's a boulevard this way, right? And this is just got bike markings to say to the motorist, share the roadway.
Yeah, that's right.
And whether that's working or not is another question, but so a bike boulevard is car accessible, but it's saying bicyclists use the whole street, right? So it's car accessible, but if you're coming here, it's a shared street. The entire street is that way, and to think about it that way. So cars aren't prohibited,
Right.
but it's really for everyone, not just
Okay.
not exclusively cars with a space for bikes off to the side. Okay.
I'd like to know, you're talking about reducing speed, which sounds great. So on a bike boulevard or anywhere, what do you have to say about speed bumps for reducing?
Bicyclists do not do well with speed humps, right?
Yeah, but what about the ones where they're not in the bike lane, but they're in the car?
Oh.
There are different styles of the hump. One is called a pillow, and that allows emergency responders to go through the slots.
Oh, yeah.
And if you put them in the right way, then bicyclists can deal with that. But there's so many better ways to reduce the speeds of cars. We see that as a total last resort. And in general, we like horizontal change to get the speeds down as opposed to vertical change. And it seems to work really well. But there's some
Horizontal changes like when you
horizontal would be
dog legs.
yeah, like curb extensions,
Okay, I just-
median islands, anything that's going to
Flat, making the street narrower or wider versus an obstruction in the street, that's vertical up and down. Yeah.
So I guess my question is, because I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm a cyclist, like not right at the moment, but
oh no.
But I mean, we have these sort of major thoroughfares north-south, and this is our attempt, this bicycle boulevard, to give the bicycles a way to go east-west. And so no matter where you put it, you're going to end up having to cross these major north-south roads.
Understood.
Yeah.
And a number of tools, now I'll remember to put one in. Provo, Utah did a beautiful job with this, and a few other cities. It's a special crossing that only bicycles and pedestrians use, and the motors don't get the benefit of it. But I'll make sure I illustrate that to show you. That's the key, is when you get to the intersections, you want the bicyclists and the pedestrians to have total freedom to go through, but you want to divert the motorist out of the system. And that's where you really pick up the benefit of a bicycle boulevard acting as an expressway for bikes and peds, but not for motorists. Yeah?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think one of the issues we have with Arcata's bike boulevards is that there are sharrows, but there are very few other design signals to drivers that this is anything but a regular street.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
As a general rule,
Just that.
sharrows should not be used. Really low speed environments, they're okay. But when you get up to 25 and 30, sharrows are not the right tool. And it's a cop-out of getting the space you need for the proper tool for the bicycling to work and work well. And again, let's just use, for example, and I don't have any data, but if you only needed parking on one side, you're freeing up a huge amount of space so that you could get in real facilities that support walking and bicycling, right?
What are sharrows? It's right here. There's one right here.
This marking right here.
Paint that says bicycle.
You guys are asking great questions, but I know...
The fact that we don't even know what they are says a lot, right?
It's a shared lane marking, but it's got an arrow chevron, so it just got turned to sharrow. So it's
Even
a
our
sharrow.
city council members don't know what a sharrow is.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, in that you're asking these questions, how many motors have figured out what it is? Right?
Right, yeah.
Dan, let's next one.
Okay, next stop.
11th and L.
11th is an arterial.
Measured 11.
Yeah. The lanes are 20 feet, and that's aside from the parking. So think about that. If you, perhaps the city's already doing this, is each time you repaint, you allocate only 10 foot per direction for the motorist. And all the rest is now part of your canvas to do the right thing for people walking, biking, and so on. I like to say the perfect ratio for any street is 50-50. 50% for moving traffic, the other 50% for parking, sidewalks, bike lanes, anything else. That if you try to set that as your goal, that you're going to end up with a much, much more walkable and bike-friendly platform for everybody. And you're going to bring the speeds down. So,
I have another question.
yes?
That person. So in terms of the sidewalk widths, we haven't really talked about that in the city as much.
We will.
And someone walks everywhere.
Uh-huh.
If a person's coming at me with a stroller, that's great, but there's most of the sidewalks in Arcata, someone's going to jump in the street and it's going to be me in the case of the stroller, but
Right.
Somebody's got to jump out in the street because it's hard, even if a person is carrying their groceries to the side, to pass a single person coming at.
Correct.
So there's got to be some kind of measurements, right, about
Oh, absolutely. And
sidewalk, like comfortable width.
so let me ask what your standards are currently.
It's minimum 5.5 or 6 feet on public right of way. When it's a new project. We try to do more when we have more on plaza areas.
Right.
There's one across the street from me where I live. It's 48 inches.
Yeah.
Well, years ago, sidewalks were not built. We're working in a city in Colorado right now where their standard was 4 feet, and they built all of their sidewalks at 4 feet, which means most people are walking in the street.
Right.
And so they're trying to come from behind. For a neighborhood, 5 foot's the right dimension if it's set back from the curb. But if it's attached to the curb, you need 6 feet.
Oh, what does that mean?
You need 6 foot if your sidewalk, like those on the other side, are attached for people to comfortably walk on a sidewalk, right? And on commercial streets, you want even more space when you can get it. Calming traffic, setting the correct target speed for a street, and then putting in the right tools to get the speeds down to that. Most effective traffic calming is done at intersections. It's where you have the most real estate, it's where you control more directions, and truly you can have a really great mix. Seattle, Washington is a real leader in traffic calming by design. They have over 2,000 mini circles, neighborhood mini circles. Their crashes came down 93% as a result of putting in the mini circles. They get them in from anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000 a piece, which is very cheap. You've done some, and you can evaluate their effectiveness and say, well, we need a little more or something, and then come up with a good standard for that. But again, the best treatments are at the intersections, and again, that's where you really want to control speed. I see a question.
What's a mini circle?
Oh, let's see. Near the university, Humboldt.
Yeah, those ones on High Street going down.
Okay, is that one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alex just said 2 on Ice Street.
Yeah.
2 on I Street.
They're like tiny.
You've had to have driven around them, and they're really effective. But there are other tools as well, and I'll build those into my presentation. Does that work?
Well, what I hear you saying is like, if we had more crosswalks up the street there, then that would inherently slow down this traffic that's coming through here.
Not just the crosswalks, the curb extensions, a median island, the things that make it feel to the motorists, you shouldn't be going more than 20 miles an hour. So, yes, and a frequency where pedestrians need to cross is a really good traffic calming point.
You know, up in Westwood neighborhood, there right in front of the Westwood Market, where it crosses with Stromberg, with Stromberg, they've done this. And there's an island, there's bulb outs, and the crosswalk, and the cars do, in fact, stop for pedestrians. Now, I can't cross safely here, but now I can cross safely there. And so I've seen it in action.
Yeah, they really work. Yes.
Just a quick one, Natra. Does the city have plans to finish this sidewalk?
On this one?
Yeah.
Right now, it's nothing in the works.
Okay.
That would be a really good intersection to focus on because of the nexus of the 2 streets. And we should look at that. And again, so many tools we can now use.
That's a crucial spot.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I see. This is the beginning of the bicycle boulevard. There are some things are done really well, but I think other things you'd want to accent. One might be, and I'll try to remember to drop this in Kauai, they had a very similar opportunity. What they did is they put a line in, the motors need to stay on one side, and then the bicyclists and the pedestrian on the other side, and it works pretty well. In their case, it was a one-way, which is what you got here. Can bicycles go both ways here?
They can go on sidewalk here.
The bicyclists do go both ways.
I was going to say, I don't know if they can, but they do.
Okay. Well, you need to anticipate if you're going to create a system, then bicyclists are going to use it in a way that whether you dedicate it for that or not, they're going to do that.
There's really very little car traffic.
Okay. So the sidewalk here is like 8 foot wide. That was the reason we made a wider sidewalk so people could go in different directions.
Most bicyclists and go scooters want to take 11th Street because we're commuting too, and we don't want to come down, go there, come back, and then go up to HSU.
Exactly.
They want the most direct route.
This is fine if you're on a picnic lunch or something, but it does not address people who are trying to actually commute, because there's a huge community over there, residential community over there, and this is a very critical street for Arcata to get people out to bicycle or walk, and it is a terrible street to be on.
And the good news is you've got plenty of width that we can do the right thing, right? So so we'll look at that as to what is the best long-term approach.
And would you encourage a stop sign here, because there's a lot of traffic in the mornings when there's the school coming in and out, and they're pulling in. I've seen 3 bicycles almost get hit, but kids on the back, and because people are just trying to go east on Arcata for traffic or school or whatever, work Arcata, and it gets so backed up, they're darting out as fast as they can, and there's so many near misses. I hear it all the time.
Well, again, keep in mind I was just dropped in here. I don't have all the data, but one thing I would look at is making this a key intersection. It could be a neighborhood mini circle, it could be a chicane, it could be any of a number of things. But if this is a bicycle boulevard and you're picking up all kinds of bicycle traffic here, then you want the stop control to be for the motorist, or at least a yield control for the motorist. And again, we'll look at that, when we have the time to do this before the presentation. But I think the point is that you're halfway there, you're 2/3 of the way there, but you want these refinements. And you want each one to be evaluated. How well did this work? Do we need to change it more? Then I think in a short period of time, you're going to have some really good results.
What's a chicane? It's a serpentine curve in a road added by the
So if you put a median on one side and curb extensions on the other, the motorist is being forced to the curb and then they're forced back out. So that creates a deflection path that really slows them down.
Slows them down.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention.
I'll also show some of those Monday.
Yeah. Part of the reason.
Hey, Matra, is Q Street that way a bike boulevard?
No, it
I
starts
don't
here.
think so. It's just this one block
Block this
down to
goes
10th
this way.
Street.
Before I forget, there's a signing sheet for carpool. Somebody asked about it, so
Oh, yeah.
I'll be passing this around. So please sign in if you're interested for carpooling for Monday evening.
PSC.
Yes, one more announcement.
I'm just curious, like if you're taking a big road like this and you're gonna slow the traffic, it's a major through road. It seems like a 25 mile an hour road, but no expert here. But my question is, if you're separating the cyclists, you know, you've got pedestrians, you've got cyclists, you've got cars, is there like some kind of a commonly used or safe barrier between the cyclists and the cars that you can do, not just a line?
Yes, there are many things we do. It's called a cycle track. Josh, what are they now calling it?
Protected bike lane.
Protected bike lanes.
Class 4, and Caltrans has, but if you hear the word class 4, that means a protected bike lane with a vertical, some kind of vertical barrier between the motorists and the
don't,
cars.
like, you know, reach
It
down.
can be yellow
to the
things,
cigarette, they drop it.
but it can also be greenery. It can be a raised island. It's just any kind of vertical protection so that you're separated from the motorists.
That would be awesome.
Something raised.
I'm not a cyclist, but I don't want to hit a cyclist.
No one.
Very popular.
And there's a lot of cyclists.
Let's get a group photo. Oh, yeah, come on in, folks, and find a nice, comfortable place. We've got about 30 minutes before we need to move off to our next venue. But I wanted to, first of all, say, after doing a head count, you're now beyond the upper 1%. You're in the upper 1/4 1%. Woo! For the nation. Pretty good. For a small town, for a Saturday, it's off the charts, right? So we wanted to kind of do a round robin. This is your hour, your time. If you would, share with us something that got expressed that you want to make sure we've heard, or things that we didn't get to talk about that you really feel are important. Keep your comments down to a minute. We have a lot of people here. But I want to go around robin for the room and do exactly that. I know we have at least one city council member. No, three more. Great. Good. Our city council members, stand up. All right. Thank you. So let's do this. I get a lot of this. If we were in a different style room, we would do what we call a talk story, where we do a whole circle of chairs. But this is fine. What key points do you want to make sure that we record and that we focus on during our stay now and that gets covered on into the future? And we'll start with this gentleman on there. Stand and use your outside voice.
I'm concerned about the downtown merchants. Is there any downtown merchants here today? I'm concerned about their opportunity for sidewalk dining and for sidewalks. We were focused pretty heavily on their about 5-foot sidewalks and how that's a standard. We need to enforce that. I'm close to 12-foot sidewalk myself. And I just want to make sure that we don't lose an opportunity. We're going to gain opportunity by slowing down the traffic that we're going to sacrifice on sidewalk. That's also a part of walkability.
Thank you for sharing that. You're spot on. This gentleman? Okay.
Humboldt Trails Council, and I just have general appreciation for you doing the walking audit. I take care of L Street, and I have particular concern right on the that section of the trail.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for being on the Trails Council.
I'm really glad you're here, and I think we really need to look to the future of what our communities will be, and the cars will not be emphasized. And I really think Arcata needs to be in the forefront of all this and designing our community not for cars in a huge way.
Good. And certainly not for speed. Yeah. Should you? Okay. Next.
I have a few. One is that I've been passed on 11th, which we walked in. When I'm going 25, I'll have
Cars go around you.
cars go around me. I have a concern for when you're cycling, and when the cycle lane is either the same as the parking lane or right next to it, and you have people opening doors, car doors. It would be nice to protect cyclists. And I would just really like to see everything slowed down. I've been in Olympia quite a bit, where they have those little curbs, and it seems like sealed neighborhoods that have little, I forget what you call them.
Chicanes.
Chicanes, yeah. And it's wonderful.
Yep.
They work so well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to just thank you for coming and talking about different ways, different alternatives, and I'm a bicyclist, and I've almost been hit several times, and I live between two one-way streets. One goes north and one goes south, and I hear people accelerate on those streets all the time. You know, they just don't pay attention to traffic, you know, to the rules of the road, and it's a scary place. So I hope that some of those things can be taken care of. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Let's stay on this side of the room for now.
I'm just here to listen and learn, and it's been really interesting, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I first thank you for being here. And I can certainly see the strides the city's trying to make in increasing safety for pedestrians and cyclists. I think it's just a matter of maybe connecting some of the pieces that are not connected, and making it easier for people to get around in ways that are not by vehicle. I think in the way that we've kind of built cities, and not just Arcata, but like in all American cities, we've really kind of like hit this nasty corner of like where we're getting the worst of public safety and the worst of like greenhouse gas emissions and the worst of livability. And how do we go back from that? And I think attending meetings like this is exactly how the community learns that, you know, traffic and circulation is really such a critical piece of that. And I thank you for being here. I thank our engineers for being here, and the members of our city council for being here. Yeah, thank you so much.
Good. Let me pick up on something you shared. In Clearwater, Florida, people were concerned about all the injuries and everything. So they brought a team that I assembled in, and they had already done a neighborhood traffic calming program, but then it resulted in pros and cons, and not everybody speaking with knowledge. And so after an 8-hour city council meeting on that topic, they decided they needed to really collect the data and work with the neighborhoods. They had 11 neighborhoods, and we chose one neighborhood to be first. We did the traffic calming treatment there. They got a 99% approval rate in the neighborhood for the treatments, and they got funded right away. We then went back and did the other 10 neighborhoods based on that as a model. So you might want to think about that based on how many neighborhoods you have and what the issues or topics are to do all neighborhoods. What we end up achieving was people were so proud of the work they did, and it was their plans, their neighborhood plans, based on traffic, that they voted up a bond measure so they could build everything, all the treatments So as a city, they're now pretty famous for having achieved their goals because they figured out a way to work together. Right? Would you go next, please, Jacob?
Yeah, Jacob. I'm with the County of Humboldt. Something I would say I'd look forward to it as a regional approach, something that we're communicating on throughout each community. We start looking at transportation in each town, and then we kind of are on track with each other and having the same look and feel for each place.
Oh, wow. That was nice. So I think just the things you talked about speed control would probably be pretty important in a lot of our most walkable areas.
Fantastic. Back row?
Yeah, I think I'm concerned that traffic is actually getting worse. At least that's my observation. It is, I, as someone who lives in Arcata, I could bike, but I also have to think, do I want to deal with the traffic?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel somewhat discouraged, or feel more discouraged than I have been, because I think it's getting worse. That's all.
Thank you.
I feel safe. I'm getting older, I'm a little wobbly, and so I feel worried about riding on anything except the really serious bike paths. I live in the Sunset area, so I can get to the L Street path really easily, and I love that, and then I can get out to the marsh. But driving or riding my bike through traffic, I feel really uncomfortable about, so I hope we can do something about that.
And that's what the community wants to work on.
This is for streets and roads, so it's very educating to hear the input, to see. I haven't walked these. I have bad knees anyway, but this was a good time for me to get out and just see to understand what a boulevard is, to understand what there was one other where they're two are together.
Cycle track?
The sheriff. Okay. Yeah, sheriff. Okay. Yeah. And so very educating for me. And Emily's kind of understudy, so I'm learning from her. And so this is very educating.
Well, thank you.
We did a lot to make sure that we've got room for our cars, but we're pedestrians a lot of the time. We have to bring our cars with us sometimes and put them somewhere, but they're really big. And so if we create a situation where we can just be pedestrians too and create space for ourselves when we're not drivers, we'll have a better place, better world.
And I think we've kind of thought of that as just like one way. I used to drive the semi, so I worked for a sense of getting through town and doing deliveries and stuff like that. And we rely on that. We're kind of angry at those people who do drive trucks. They're dangerous. But we need to find a way to support maybe smaller trucks, or that just has to be added.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, where we skipped somebody.
Well, we have two staff, maybe Logan and Tony, if you want to say something up there.
Please come. But Monday is the big event, and talk that up, work the network. Let's make it another record. Again, you guys set a record today by far, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of credit for that. And I think the reason that you are such a great community, if you know the Hawaiian Islands, there are 4 big islands, county islands. One of them is Kauai. And Kauai, we get amazing change. They bring changes that are later seen in the other 3 counties. But the reason is that Kauai is so isolated that in the early centuries, when the warriors tried to conquer, they got wiped out by the tides. So Kauai grew up as a very independent place, very proud of their achievements. I think you guys are very similar. It's so hard to get here that you just go up and do it while America just keeps making big mistakes. So you are the model, not just for your region.
It's hard to get out.
I know, which I found out. So thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you again soon.
Oh, one more thing. This is not the last time Dan will be here. We are applying for grants and trying to get some funding, so Dan could come back early, maybe next year, and we'll have similar walks in the future.